You got the family permit either as a dependent family member, either as a child or a parents or a dependent relatives. Or you got pre-settled status as a dependent relative, as a dependent child over 21 years of old, or as a parents, as a dependent parents. The question is, do you need to continue this dependency, or do you need to satisfy the Home Office that you are still dependent on your sponsor when you will apply for settled status, or otherwise called indefinite leave to remain? I have recently encountered or challenged a couple of refusal with the Home Office on the ground that the applicant is not dependent on on the sponsor. For example, a child came in the UK 21 or over as a dependent, or a parents come in the UK as a dependent parents. When they apply for settled status, the Home Office are refusing that on the ground that you are no more dependent on your sponsor. So that answer I will refer you today, and I'll refer you specifically on the law, on the immigration rules, on the Appendix EU, and the Home Office guidelines, that which is EU settlement scheme guideline, policy guidelines, that once the EU family member who satisfied the dependency and come to the UK, secure pre-settled status, in any subsequent application, he doesn't need to prove dependency. However, the caseworker, some of the caseworker are not familiar with the updated immigration rules. They are not familiar, follow their own worker guidelines, and they apply the same assessment to grant first pre-settled status or family permit, that is dependency, on settled status application, and accordingly they refuse the application. But what you need to do, I'll give you that later. But before that, I'll go a short break, and after that, I'll come and show you where in the law is said that you don't need to satisfy that dependency. Stay with me. So viewers, my name is Suhan Ahmed, I'm a solicitor. If you have any question or if you need any assistance, please contact with my chamber or office. The telephone line available on the screen, bottom of the screen, so you can give us a ring and make an appointment for any assistance if your EU family, if EU settled status refuse on the ground of dependency. So as I said that you do not need to satisfy dependency, and where it's said. So here is the immigration rules. Appendix EU is said, where a person has been granted limited leave to enter or remain under this appendix, they must continue to meet eligibility requirement for that leave which they met at the date of application, except, and that is the turning point, except for any which relate to their dependency. And it said child, dependent parents, or dependent relatives. It's not go for further more than this. However, what the caseworker do, they apply that part on decision making, that they must continue to meet the eligibility requirement for leave which they met at the date of application. They don't apply the exception of this eligibility requirement. And that caused a problem. That led to make a wrong decision. Because you need to satisfy all the requirement, but exception is dependency. You don't need to prove dependency again. And is look at the common sense. A child who is 24 years old, he lives in Ghana. He came in the UK as a dependent because Ghana has no job. So her mom or dad or brother, who is a EU national, send money regularly, and he survived on that income, on that money for his essentials living needs. He came in the UK, get family permit, apply pre-settled status, then he got visa. Now this 24 years old young man, should he sit at the home and dependent on his parents or brother, or should he go to work? He should go to work, earn money, and when he earn money, he become independent. He's no more dependent on on his parents or his brother or relatives. He earn money. After 5 years, he apply. Now, think about the common sense. If the home office bring this argument that you are independent because you are no more dependent on your brother or your child, therefore we are not giving you visa. So that does it mean that 24 years old man, young man, will stay at the house sitting and eating, no more work? That's, to me, it doesn't make sense. And yes, it doesn't make sense on law as well, because the home office the home office immigration rules, the policy guidelines exactly say same things. However, unfortunately, I would say some of the caseworker not understand this law and apply the wrong decision. Now, I'll give another example of where it's more specifically the same things. So if you can share this, let me, but okay, so now I hope you seen in the screen. Yeah. So this is the Home Office policy guideline for caseworker. And where it say, family member who hold pre-settled status based on dependency. So there you go. It said, Rule EU4 of Appendix EU provide in part that where a person has been granted pre-settled status, limited leave to enter or remain under Appendix EU as a child, dependent parents or dependent relatives, they do not need to continue to meet the eligibility requirement for that leave which they met at the date of application, where those related to their dependency, in order to retain their leave or remain eligible in due course for settled status or indefinite leave to remain, where they apply on the basis of the same family relationship. So here is very clear. Home Office caseworker guidelines said that they don't need to continue or to prove dependency for retain their leave or again to get settled status. I hope that issue is solved. Now you can work full time, live independence as soon as you satisfy the other requirement relationship. But for dependency, if the Home Office refuse your application, do appeal, go to the judge in the independent tribunal, tell the law, show the law what I said, and you'll get a positive decision. And one more thing I would like to say. Home Office has updated the settle the immigration rules. Home Office has updated the EU settlement scheme policy guidelines as well. But you need to rely on the old version where it categorically, specifically said the dependency you don't need. So to sum up for today's session, the question is: do you family member, whether child or whether parents or whether you are a dependent relative, extended family member, need to continue dependency to get settled status? The answer is no. You don't need to continue. My understanding, you don't need to continue your dependency to get settled status. Once you get your pre-settled status in the UK, you can work, you can live independently, you can earn money, and when you can earn money, and when you apply for settled status under the current immigration rules or the Home Office policy guidelines, you should entitled to get your settled status. If the Home Office refused, do an appeal. If you need any assistance, feel free to contact with us. Thank you very much. This is for today. I hope that information will help you. This is not a legal advice, it's information only. Don't rely on my information. If you have an issue you're facing, please contact with a solicitor or a barrister to speak with your legal issue. This is for today.